Hey guys, Jeff here, and we're going to talk about Strange New Worlds. Now, at the recording of this video, I had recorded one for episode 2, but I'm taking a different tact because I kind of want to cover all the first 3 episodes, which by and large have been good, but Computing Forever nailed what I think the biggest hang up for me. And it tracks across all 3 episodes. Now, before we get started, for episode 2, I have to redo the ratings for all 3 episodes because I have to knock the first episode down a point, and I have to put it at a 7 out of 10. Episode 2, I'd probably put it about a 7.5 out of 10, and I'd probably say the same thing for episode 3 because Computing Forever put it best. This show is very derivative of itself. I think the writers are leaning way too heavily into being a love letter to the fans of the original series and stuff before the Kurtzman Trek. But I think they've also run into the fact of we don't know what to do. There's really nothing new to write, and the creative bankruptcy of Hollywood is rearing its ugly head. And they have nowhere to go, so where do they go? Backwards, into time, and are recontextualizing and retelling old stories with a new gloss of paint. And while they do bring up thought-provoking stuff, and especially in this 3rd episode, they didn't lecture us, but they actually, in the old style of Trek, brought up a conundrum, kind of said what they thought, but left it up to us to deal with the fallout and philosophically think on eugenics. They did it in a trite way and retreaded ground that's already been covered by other characters. Not to say, number one, Una is not a compelling character. She is. But it seems like the stories they brought up in these first 3 episodes of Trek have been done before. Now, spoilers for episode 3, because we're going to talk about that more since it's fresh on my mind since I just watched it. But you come to find out, Una is an Etherian, basically a genetically engineered species that said instead of terraforming planets, they were going to terraform themselves so they didn't have to change a thing on the planet of colonies they wanted to live on. Which is an interesting take on eugenics, don't get me wrong, but I think it's already been done before. And of course they brought up the fact that Lanan is directly related to Khan Noonien Singh, her take on eugenics because, she got made fun of for being related to someone who was one of the big figures of the eugenics wars, and another point on that later. And again, my only thought is this trite? I mean, again, they bring up good points and, talk about how the Federation's eugenic policies could use some work and not everything, and stop basing all eugenics law on something that happened before on Earth. And yes, it damn near nearly destroyed it and led directly to World War III, but on the other hand, not everything tied to eugenics is wrong, which is an interesting debate, don't get me wrong, and I'm glad Star Trek brought it back up, because it's something that has been touched on, but nothing too deeply. But here's my problem. 1, Una, you can make a direct comparison to the direction they went with Julian Bashir by making him, biologically engineered to correct the deficiencies that he had that his parents thought that, he had, to improve, Basically, when Bashir was a young kid, his IQ was, wasn't very high, and his hand-eye coordination was absolutely terrible, and he would be considered barely functional. And of course, his parents, took him off to a place that drastically increased these things and basically turned him into a genius. But they also did it without all the baggage that would have turned him into Khan Noonien Singh, the ex-coming. And of course, he had to lie and hide it, and when it finally got revealed, it damn near cost him his commission and a couple of other things, which with Una being an Assyrian and once again lying and breaking the regulations, the same thing plays out where the captain goes, yes, you did, but on the other hand, I need you. You're a damn good officer, and I need you exactly where you are. So as long as you come clean, we'll deal with this. So again, with Una, we're retreading old ground, and then we come to Lanai. And I actually got into an argument on the Facebook group over Lanai, the character, because I'm just like, why did she need to be tied to Khan Noonien Singh? And oh my god, some of y'all just went the fucking bat for, oh, it makes her interesting. Oh, you're just a boomer. Oh, this. Oh, that. It's like, you're the kind of Trek fan, and I'm going to be blunt, I could take a dump in a box, slap the Star Trek logo on it, you would buy it and do it with a smile on your face, knowing that it's shit in a box. You all didn't eat. And now one person did that, and I replied with, why'd it have to be Khan? Was he the whole eugenics leader in the eugenics war? And that person actually had two brain cells to rub together and was like, you know what, you're right. We could have expanded on the eugenics war and learned about someone else. And I'm like, dang, thank you. I understand the concept of wanting to understand that part of Star Trek history because the eugenics wars is a thing, but there is another problem with them taking, because the eugenics wars originally happened in the 1990s, but then you couldn't have modern day politics, so you have to compress the eugenics war, the Second American Civil War, and the Third World War, because it happens by 2057, I believe it was, World War III finally happened. So now you're compressing the Second American Civil War, the eugenics wars, and World War III into about a 20-year time period, instead of a 50 or 60-year time period where you have more time to breathe, which is something I didn't like the writers doing, but hey, here we are, compressing time to shove even more modern day into Star Trek, which I think they really need to stop. But anyways, back to the point of why did Lanai have to be Noonien Singh? Why couldn't she be, you had the same premise to give her character more depth and backstory and give her more of a past and give her, the outlook that she does, but it didn't have to be Khan. You see, this goes back to the problem I alluded to earlier of the creative bankruptcy. They have to rely on the old to give it a glossy new veneer to make it seem like it's new. And again, goes back to the original standing point of derivative. That's what I think is truly holding the show back. I think the showrun, I think Akiva Goldsman and all them and Kurtzman all heard us, but then was like, shit, we tried a new approach and they hate it. Let's go back and retread what's been and repackage it. And they'll like it. And by and large, they haven't been too far off the mark. It's just, I think they knee-jerked too hard. I think that's the problem with Strange New World as it stands out. Are they good episodes? Yeah. Do they stand up to the older stuff? Somewhat. But we're just retreading ground. You're not taking bold new looks. You're not doing anything new. You're just treading water with, like I said, a new Star Trek veneer. So overall, that episode, like I said, I may even have to knock episode 3 down to a 7 because, once again, derivative. But I will have to say this, Dr. Ubunga, the doctor, I can't say his name for the life of me, and I apologize. But but then again, while it is interesting, we're retreading the fact that you can keep people in the transporter and a transporter steam for long periods of time, which is a retread of the James Doohan cameo in Star Trek The Next Generation, Relics. Oh, God. Straight. Kurtzman, stop retreading old Trek, please. I know you're trying to appeal to us and go to more episodic and doing, not over, having plot threads that kind of run over every episode, but every episode's a self-contained thing. But stop redoing what's been already done and trying to claim it's new. Do something different, but not completely over the top like Discovery and Picard. There's a middle ground you can find. Strange New World is a good return to form. You just went so return to form that you didn't try new things. You gotta find a happy medium between Discovery and Strange New Worlds. But if I had to pick between the two, I'll take Strange New Worlds all day, every day. For the simple fact of, it's not Discovery and I'm not being preached at. Strange New World is a good return to form. It's just, it's being held back. But I've been rambling for 10 minutes. I repeated myself. I think you all got the hint. Overall, good episode, but you know the score. I'm Jeff. I'll catch you next time.